introduce my guest. So the Nightwatch Zone is my buddy Night here. He does a show where he does so many streams all the time. It's really cool because you can talk to him, you can watch movies with him. This morning I had breakfast with him. And it's all horror all the time. And sometimes it's other movies too. Sometimes he talks about Kung Fu. Sometimes he talks about Avatar. You know, he's a man of many tastes, but mostly the horror. And you guys know Monty G. Monty G he's old school horror. He's been here as long as I've been here, and I've been here a long time, guys, a long time. And Monty has got to be one of the biggest supporters of everyone's channels on YouTube. I mean, he watches everything, and not only that, he makes so many videos covering so many different movies, which is incredible. Both of these guys are really passionate about the genre. They're both really knowledgeable about the genre, and I am really excited to hear from them about some horror. So let's go. All right, my very first question for you guys is, how did you get into horror, and what drew you into the genre?
I'll let you go first, Monty.
Okay. Yes. I'm pretty sure most people. I've told this story several times before. I got into horror probably when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I watched 1943's Universal Monsters, The Mummy, and I just thought it was funny. I had a very morbid sense of humor even when I was a child. Drove my mother crazy, and eventually I started watching all of the Universal Monster films. But I really got into horror by watching Hammer's Horror and Count Dracula with the late great Christopher Lee. And I simply fell in love with it. And again, not because I was scared. I just thought it was funny.
Nice. Well, my story is a little bit different. I got into horror because I used to be deathly afraid of horror movies. And I used to love watching marathons at night of whatever. And one night they were playing Friday the 13th. And I thought to myself, if I can watch it and get through it, then maybe I'll start watching horror movies. And I was, I don't know, about 7, something like that. I got through the movie. The stinger at the end scared the crap out of me, but I survived. So that was the beginning. I just started to gravitate towards horror. When we would go to the video store to rent movies, I always went to the horror section. And yeah, that was it. I felt empowered to be able to watch them and not be afraid. Or at least I should say not be as afraid as I was. So that's how it started.
Your fears, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Speaking of Friday the 13th, I took my cousin Jesse to go see it for the first time, and at the time he didn't know what Friday the 13th was. I saw the magazine Fangora, and it actually showed all the practical effects, and of course it had Jason's practical effects in there, and he didn't know that. So when that scene popped up, he got scared, and I cracked up laughing. He nearly smacked shit out of me.
That's awesome.
Right?
He said, "You knew that, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah, I did."
Nice.
Oh man.
Well, that kind of segues into my next question for you, which is, what scares you, and how are those fears reflected in horror movies?
Ooh. Well, I think what scares me is anything where I can't escape. You know what I'm saying? A situation that I can't escape, which usually, I suppose, in horror, that would be something like, a killer coming after you, a zombie herd, an alien invasion, stuff like that. Because whenever I would have a nightmare, the scariest part wasn't so much the monster or the killer, because I would always be able to run away, but it would get to a point where I had nowhere else to run. And so that was always a big fear. So whenever I see someone getting chased, or if I'm watching a zombie movie and they're just at the point where they've got no more ideas, that's when I can feel myself get a little anxious and like, oh, what are they going to do? So that's one thing for me, not being able to escape. Because I've got 2 feet and I can run fast. But if I can't use them and I can't escape, then I'm screwed.
Like a
So,
boxing hell in a situation where you have no limbs?
right,
Oh man.
right.
Not good. What about you,
I-
Monty?
um, it was not about me being scared. It was just the fascination of fear. It just like I see these movies, and then my mother would try to watch it, and she said, "Monty, how can you watch this stuff?" I don't know. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating me. Whether it's the creature from the Black Lagoon, the unknown factor about this monster, or the werewolf or the wolf man. That all those things right there. And then unfortunately, and then I got into seeing more horrors like supernatural horrors. But I think mainly during the 50s when we got all those radioactive monsters. Now I'm talking about just Godzilla, whether it's the amazing colossal man, the praying
Mhm.
mantis, tarantula. It's just the unknown things. I mean, just imagine seeing a giant tarantula coming to you and you can't go anywhere. You
Right.
see this thing and it's just like just going like that. I mean, that's what fascinated me about horror films.
Is there
Hmm.
anything that does scare you?
Heights.
Yeah?
And I love roller coasters, and I can't stand heights. But yeah, but
Wow.
other than that, yeah. But the one thing I will say that Jaws, never swim in the ocean again. No, no.
Right?
Yeah, nope.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true.
So
So
true.
true.
Yeah,
So now we're
Wow.
my
gonna.
mother.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my mother took me to go see Jaws when it first came out. A very fascinating
Wow.
film. Don't know why she took me and my brother to go see it,
How
but
old
she
were
took me to go
you?
see. I think I was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. Because I'm a '70s kid. I was born in '70. I'm a '70s. I grew up in the '70s, so I might have been 13, 14 at the time when we went to go see Jaws. And after I see Jaws, I don't swim in the ocean because sharks are real. No, no, refuse
Same
to do it.
here. Same here
Right.
entirely. So now I want to segue into
Mm,
talking about the history of black horror movies. So there are a few.
mm,
If you guys have seen the documentary Horror Noir, that's where I'm
Yes.
getting a lot of the information. So I'm not going to go super in depth and you know, this isn't going to be like class. We're going to get these guys' opinions on these things. So if you want to learn more about it, that is a terrific documentary and it is on Shudder. We're not going to get into
mm,
and then this happened. We're mostly going to be hearing these guys' opinions on some movies. So,
cool.
in the very beginning, the earliest black characters we saw in movies, you'd have like your voodoo guys, and
Hmm.
movies like Eat Your Skin, and you would have like the servants, and
Hmm.
but there wasn't a lot of real representation. How do you feel
Mm.
about those characters? Like when you watch that, do you feel like I don't know? How does that make
Well,
you
it's
feel?
well, it's funny you asked that because I can remember as a kid, I would spend a lot of time at my grandmother's house. So of course she would watch a lot of movies like that, not just horror. And even as a kid, I can remember kind of feeling a little like an outcast. I don't know if that's the right way to word it, but I could definitely, even as a kid, understand the fact that I wasn't represented as much. And when I saw someone who looked like me, they usually had very small roles or they were very typecast. Like you were saying, the voodoo priest, the butler, the servant, that type of thing. So there was a long time as a very young kid that's kind of what I grew accustomed to. Um, so yeah, it did affect me. And I'm talking about I was, 5, 6 years old at that point. And even then I could understand the difference, the difference in the balance, or I should say the imbalance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they weren't treated like full fledged characters.
Right. No, not at all.
What do you
Not
think,
at all.
Monty?
Yeah, I agree with Knight. Watching some of the movies back in the day, and not even just horror movies, but just even regular movies, whether it's westerns or
Hmm.
I can't even think. What I'm trying to can't get my words together. Yeah, but any movies like that, you would see that black people would be the typical stereotype person, whether it be the butler, the servants, or anything else. They wouldn't have that many prominent roles in the back in the day.
Hmm.
So that it didn't really surprise me back then. But but eventually I was glad that we were able to get more prominent roles in horror as time went on. But yeah, but I wasn't surprised back then because we didn't, most Hollywood back then didn't know what to do with black people just to cast them in the stereotypical roles.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you mentioned earlier something really great that kind of ties into what I want to talk about next. You talked about the atomic films, which those
Hmm.
films were very much horror is always a representation of what people are afraid of, and people were
Mm,
Right.
afraid at the time of being bombed.
Hmm.
And what's interesting about that period of horror is there are no black characters.
no,
They're
Hmm.
none.
nowhere to be seen. And it's largely
Hmm.
believed to be because it's like, a lot of science and stuff. But there are characters that are like black coded characters. Now, this is something I
Hmm.
didn't understand until I was a lot older, but like King Kong, the creature of the Black Lagoon. Why don't you guys
Hmm.
maybe explain a little more of what that means in horror films? Like, what is it saying and who is it saying it to?
Well, I think it was a way for these movies to kind of put that vibe out there about black folks. You know, King Kong obviously being a great example. It was a way to kind of still instill this fear. You know what I'm saying, and show that type of difference. Between the races, and obviously King Kong, the position that he was in, being the monster, going after the white damsel and so forth. I think that that was a way where Hollywood could show those prejudices without showing them, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of like under the surface. Um, we didn't get fooled though. we didn't get fooled. Um, even as a kid, again, and I
Did
was
you
very
notice this
lucky.
as a kid?
I did notice it as a kid. I did. I really did because and you also saw in those movies that the tribesmen and so forth. You just always saw a depiction that was so different than what I was used to in my regular life or what I'd want to see in my regular life. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense, but and it was really weird. It was really weird. I went to a school that was very multicultural because I lived in a big city. So my perception of people was always that people are people, but yet in movies, that's not what I was getting. You know what I'm saying?
They are
So it was really,
caricatures.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So it was definitely, I struggled with that. I struggled with that quite a bit. I will say that.
I don't know if I struggle with that. I think it was just the norm. I know when I first saw King Kong and I see the tribes people there and I'm looking like them, I says, well, I don't remember black people looking like that. It's like most of my friends don't act this way. Then my mother had to tell me, says, well, they're from Africa. They're trying to pretend that they're the African tribes and that's the way they're portraying. I said, do African
Hmm.
people act that way? And she's not now. I said, but they used to be that. I guess they think that's what they believe. They act all the time.
Hmm.
So to me, that was sort of I wouldn't say culture shock, but just a bit surprising because just like you, Knight, I grew up in a big city in South Philadelphia. Went to public school in a multicultural school. So it's
Hmm.
like I had black friends, I had white friends, I had some Asian friends.
Hmm.
I had a whole bunch of friends. So it was me. Was like it just kind of it didn't weird me out. I just was a bit surprised by it.
Because
Mm.
I think like you guys aren't connecting to it because it's not your stories. These are told by white people, and it's revealing their fears. They are afraid of like black men going after white women. They're afraid
Mm.
of other cultures like taking what they consider to be their place. And I
Mm.
think that's why the monsters have like this look that's very. It's not real. It's like the old adverts and stuff. So,
Hmm.
but I
Yes.
mean, it's gotta. What is that like when you? For me, like as a kid, I'd watch King Kong and I didn't see anything weird about it. But to watch a
Hmm.
movie where the monster is almost used as a way to instill fear about, about you as a person, like, what does that feel like?
It sucks.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It really does. Um, yeah, I mean, but again, kind of like what Monty said. I mean, that was the time period back then. I'm not saying that obviously I don't agree with it, but that's, kind of what it was like. I remember, like I said, my grandmother would watch a lot of different TV shows, and I think her perspective on it was it kind of is what it is. It's too bad, and hopefully things will continue to get better. You know, um, and I'm not saying that everyone looked at it that way, but I'm just talking about my experience, with
Yeah,
my
I mean, you
grandmother.
don't need to speak for the whole world, just for yourself.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
lot to put on someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I guess when I was just like you, I went to my grandmother's house. My grandfather used to watch a lot of westerns,
Yes.
and sometimes they might have a black person in it all, and that person would just be the chef or the cook or something like that. But that was it. They really wasn't the actual cowboys. They
Hmm.
weren't John Wayne. They weren't Gary Cooper or any of the other cowboys or Roy Rogers,
Yep.
like that. So to me, it was kind of weird. I was like, well, why can't they have the black guy be the cowboy?
Hmm.
My grandmother says they're never going to have a black boy be a cowboy like that.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
sucks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, the big turning point, and I want to see if you guys agree with this, but a lot of people say the big turning point was 1968, Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
Dwayne Jones in there as Ben, who's a
Yeah.
badass. And
Hmm.
Yes.
I love that. I watched that. I mean, that movie came out before I was born. So I watched that movie, as a kid. And I like that I lived in a time where, like, I didn't see that as weird or different. But at the time this movie came out, that was very different. That had not been
Yes.
done.
Oh yes.
And
Hmm.
yeah, it was a big turning point. Like, what does that? How does that movie affect you guys?
It affects me quite a bit. First of all, I love that movie so much. Um, I saw that at my grandmother's house, and I didn't know what I was in for when I was watching it. But I immediately was just enthralled by him. Fantastic job in the movie, of course, but the fact that he was portrayed like that, I was like, wow, this is really cool. He's heroic, he's intelligent, he cares about people. And the great thing about what George did with that movie is that there wasn't a sense that the other people in the movie looked at him as, oh, that's Ben the black guy. You know, he was just another guy. Even with Cooper, they butted heads, but it was more about their personalities, or at least that's the way I always take it. You know, I mean, but even George Romero himself said, it wasn't written to be a black character,
Hmm.
but that Dwayne Jones had the best audition.
Yep.
So when he auditioned for the role of Ben, George was like, "That's the guy," because he did the best job in the audition. Now, I think luckily it worked out in a good way because it showed us in a different light. It showed us in a different way than people were used to, especially because I mean the movie came out in 1968, so that was during a really turbulent time in America. But again, when I watched that movie as a kid, I was just it was like magical, watching him do
Hmm.
what he was doing, and it was so different. It really was.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed by that because this is the first time you actually see somebody that's not white. He's a black man, and he's treated as an equal. He's
Hmm.
not the typical stereotype person. He's like, just like you said, Corey. He's brave. He's intelligent. He takes charge. When the guy in Cooper butt heads, he's not butting heads because he's black. He's just butting heads because they have different philosophies about to
Hmm.
survive. And that's what I really liked about the character. And I like the fact that George A. Romero fought to keep him because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people did not want him to be cast as a lead. But George says, no, he won the audition. I'm going to keep him. You
Some
know,
Hmm.
behind the scenes info I know is Dwayne Jones really struggled with a lot of the stuff he had to do. I mean, he's slaps people around in that
I know,
movie.
yes.
And he's like, I am not, I mean, because he had never been in a role like that. He's like, I'm not comfortable, like, shouting at,
Mm-hmm.
like a woman and slapping her and stuff, which, in retrospect, probably shouldn't, you didn't need to slap the gal. But,
Mm-hmm.
it was a ways
Right.
before he was good with female characters. But, I mean, he wasn't used to that. But, this character was able to be aggressive. He was able to, like, he didn't have to be subservient to anyone. Like, he even says, I'm the boss up here. And so, like,
Yes.
but it was a
Mhm.
struggle for Dwayne Jones. And the other behind the scenes thing I really like is the guy who played Cooper. That was his best friend. They were
Right.
best
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah,
There's a
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
really great DVD interview with him where he's just talking about him and he's tearing up because Dwayne Jones isn't with us. But I
Yes.
like that when I watched the movie. I like knowing that they loved each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was really cool too. I saw this interview with Judith O'Day, and she talked a little bit about that. And it was just cool to hear it, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, wow. Not that it's unbelievable. But it's just cool to hear it. It's cool to know that those two were good friends, you know? And like I said, that movie, it's so important. It changed so much. It really did. And George, credit to George, obviously rest in peace, but even with the rest of his zombie films, he really did. I think he did a good job with representation, not just for black characters, but I think he
Mhm.
did a better job with female
He did
characters
that
as they.
too when he remade Night of the Living Dead. The one thing he regretted is that Barbara was so like she's a nothing character. But I mean, I give her a
Yeah.
Yes,
pass because I think she's traumatized. It doesn't bother
yes,
me. But he made her a badass when
Oh,
Tom
yeah.
Savini did the remake. So,
yeah. Patricia
and
Tallman.
yeah, he
Ooh,
did
Yeah,
that a
yeah.
lot
I
better.
like I like that character's growth because at first she's scared, she doesn't know what's going
mhm,
on, but eventually she starts to become the badass woman that she does, especially at the end of the
yes,
film.
But I think he was a
absolutely.
good listener, and I think that's how we learn. Like he listened to people when he got criticized for Night of the Living Dead having weak female characters. Instead of being defensive, he's like, "No, okay, you're right," and he
Hmm.
fixed it. So
Mhm.
Hmm.
you're right. He had great characters of different races and stuff. So I think he did a good
Hmm.
job. It's
Yep.
interesting though that it wasn't planned to be a black character because the ending is the part where it's like that's too true.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's hits too close to home.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
It
Mhm.
does.
that affected black audiences in a completely different way, even though it wasn't supposed to be a black character. When he
Hmm.
gets shot, I mean, it's a gut punch for everybody, but I think it's an
Hmm.
extra, like, it hits harder for black audiences, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. When I
Yeah.
saw that, it it killed me. On two levels. One level because I really enjoyed the character and I was rooting for him the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping he survives, but he doesn't. So as a character, that was a gut punch. But
Mhm.
obviously, as a black man, there was that part of me, even as a little kid, that was like, "Yep, of course." And it was obviously purely bad luck. I might have accepted it better if it was, you know what I'm saying, if something happened, with the zombies or something, but it
Mhm.
was total bad luck that he kinda looked up out of the window and they said, "Hey, there's one," and he died. Like, I almost would have rather, in the movie that if he had died for a better reason, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I think that's why in the remake, well, I don't know, but I would assume in the remake, Tony Todd playing the character, his death was a was a better death. It was more of a heroic death, you know,
Mhm.
um, and it feels better, to me, you know.
Yeah, I think I was more disappointed because he was such a great character, and the fact that he gets killed by accident.
Mhm.
That's why I was so disappointed. I said, "Damn!" It was still sad because he was a black dude. He gets killed, but I think it's because I enjoyed his character so much and was surprised that he couldn't survive. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I saw 9/11 Dead when I was a little older. Yeah, I didn't
Mhm.
see it yet. No, I did not see it when it first came out. So I was probably maybe like 18, 19 when I first saw it. So I
Yeah.
know, of
I
course.
think, I mean, I feel like the lynch mob, I mean, for the zombies, but I mean, they are a lynch mob, but
Yeah.
I feel like they just didn't care. I wonder, especially because the time period would have been different if it was Barbara or somebody. Like, would it have been different? And when I
Mm.
see that, it reminds me of like all those times you hear about some guy who's walking on the street and he got shot because he was wearing a hoodie. Like,
Yep.
what did he do that said zombie? He was
Hmm.
just standing there. When do
Yep.
zombies look out the window? Just look out the window.
Yeah. True.
Hmm.
Very true.
I don't know. So I mean, I like it. It hurts though every time. And I've seen that movie. I mean, we've all seen that movie a dozen times because they put it in every movie. So like,
Hmm.
if I counted all the
Hmm.
times that it was in another movie, oh damn, god damn.
Right.
um,
Oh.
the next era of horror is one I really need to watch more movies in, and it's because I think for the longest time I kind of misunderstood what this was all about. So maybe you guys can
Mm.
kind of open my eyes a little bit more. But we're gonna talk about Blaxploitation. So this is where we finally get movies where it's not just one guy. It's not just like it's a whole cast of just black people. And from a white girl perspective, I always thought that these were kind of like I thought they were kind of like mocking black people, so I never really gave them a chance because I was like, well, that doesn't seem right. But then I found out that
Hmm.
there's actually really empowering aspects to these, and I watched like Blackula, and I'm like, this is actually a really good movie. But
Right.
it's
Oh
the
yes.
Blaxploitation's a double-edged sword. There's negative
Hmm.
things and positive things, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on these things.
Mm.
Like, what do you think
Well,
was good and what was bad about it?
well, I think that the good was obviously getting some exposure.
Oh yes.
You had actors, actresses, even directors. William Kane directing Blackula,
Hmm.
able to get out there, work their craft, have people see what they can do. So that's the good side of it. But I think the downside of it was, like you said, you get caught up in that stereotype, you get caught up into that label, you get put into that single lane. And I think some of that is where, those ideas of stereotypes kept going for years and years after that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could even see some of those things go into the 80s with black characters. Um, so it is a double-edged sword. Personally speaking, I mean, I'm an 80s kid. So those types of things I would watch, if I was at my grandmother's house, or, if my parents were watching it or whatever. But I think it was good in the sense that it was pushing things forward. Even though there were some downsides to it, I think at least we were getting that exposure. And I have a lot of friends, a lot of white friends that love those movies. I have some white friends that know some of those movies better than me, for real. And I'm like, that's awesome. I mean, so I do think there was more good than bad from it because, again, you were giving people a chance. You were giving them an opportunity that they didn't have, beforehand. So that's kind of how I look at that double-edged sword thing.
Well, since I grew up in the '70s, I saw almost all the black exploitation films that came out.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's like when I first heard of Blackula, I'm like, what the hell? A black Dracula?
Right?
Go in there, and I enjoy the hell out of that picture. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not just because it just stereotyping black people. It was an actually good horror movie. I mean,
Hmm.
I can't remember the guy who plays Dracula. He's decent in the film. I enjoyed his
William
character.
Marshall.
William Kane did a fantastic job in directing it.
Hmm.
And then eventually we went on and got Scream, Blackula, Scream.
Yep.
Then we wind up
Pam
getting
Grier.
other
Pam Grier, yes, I love her.
then we wind up getting some other black exploitation films like JD's Revenge and then Abby. And believe it
Abby.
or not, there is a Black Frankenstein horror film.
There is. That one's not as good as Blackula, but
No.
No,
it's not
it's
as
not.
good.
Yeah, yeah. So I really didn't have a problem with the black exploitation films. Obviously it was Shaft,
Hmm.
Cleopatra Jones, Three the Hard
Yeah.
Way, all the other black exploitation films that come up. Obviously I think the Mac kind of gets you more into the stereotypical type of that one. I
Hmm.
I never actually saw the Mac, but from what I understand, is that's when you get into the stereotypical type. Eddie Murphy did that movie. I can't remember the name of it about the black guy that created all the
Dolomite.
black. Yeah, Dolomite. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he came up with the guy who created most of all the Blaxploitation films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but then, I guess to me, it was just more fun, and I enjoyed seeing horror from a black perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
agree.
mean, I was not alive in the 70s. I'm an 80s kid like you, Night. And so I
Mm-hmm.
guess my first black exploitation movie, and probably I think what made me like a little wary to go further down that rabbit hole was this is so stupid. The the Blair Witch, or not Blair Witch Project, that's a different one.
Hmm.
Um there's two of them. There's one that's a porno, and then there's one that's a black exploitation one. No, that's the Bear Wench Project.
I was about to
Anyway,
say.
there's a black exploitation one, and it wasn't good. It was just,
Hmm.
it seemed like like it was kind of making fun of people. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would say Blackula is a really good one if you want to see one that's actually good. What are some other ones that are actually good that you guys recommend?
Abby's not bad. I like Abby for what
Abby
it
was good.
is.
It's trippy.
Yeah.
It's
It is
trippy.
trippy. It is
Yeah,
very
just like
trippy.
Trip. That's up Trip's alley.
Right? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's-
You'd love that.
yeah. If you get a chance, if you haven't checked out Trip's channel, you gotta check out Trivia Theater's channel. She loves weird shit, just
She
like
does.
just
She
like Abby
does.
was. You
Mm-mm-mm.
got Corbin Earl and me. You got Young Blood. That's a good blaxploitation film. There are some others. Obviously, there's Cleopatra Jones. You got Coffee. The thing I like about with Cleopatra Jones, a lot of people can think that's Pam Grier, but it's not. Yeah, Cleopatra Jones is not. I was actress. I can't remember her name. I think she was a model, and then
Hmm.
she plays that role. But that she only did it that one time. I think it's the only time she got cast in. But everyone confuses her with Pam Grier. But Pam Grier did not play Cleopatra Jones. It was some another actress.
Mm.
She did play Foxy Brown though.
No,
See,
that's Pam Grier.
There you go.
those movies I watched.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Those ones I watched.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then somebody also mentioned in the chat Ganja and Hess, which is it's
Yes.
really not. I
Yeah.
don't really. It's came out during that time period. I don't really think of it as a black exploitation. It also has Dwayne Jones in it. It's almost kind of more like an A24 movie, but way ahead of that time. Obviously, I don't know. What
Hmm.
do you guys
Hmm.
think?
Yeah, it definitely was. It, don't kill me in the chat, guys. But I guess you could kind of.
Yeah,
I guess you could
thanks,
kind of.
Adam. Yeah, Tamara Dobson was the person who played Cleopatra Jones.
Right. Yep. You're right.
Mm.
I think it was kind of elevated. I'll use that word. It had kind of that type of vibe to it. Not saying it was better, or anything like that, but it seemed to try to do things in a way that was not the norm.
Hmm.
Kind of taking the material a little bit more seriously. The characters were a little bit more developed. Took more of a slower time to develop the characters. That's all. I'll
And it's
word it.
a great love story too. It's really good.
Hmm.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, so
Hmm.
now we're gonna get into like mine and Nat's childhood, but mostly Nat's childhood.
Let's do it.
So
Let's do it.
I think the 80s started to kind of change the game a bit,
Yeah.
and it was, again, a lot of these things are kind of a double-edged sword. So,
Hmm.
but before we get into some of the more negative aspects, I want to ask you, what were your like game changers when it came to positive like representations in horror? Like ones where you were like, yeah, I want to be that guy, or that's like a hero that you felt represented you, or a character that you connected with.
Mm.
It doesn't just have to
Well,
be the 80s.
yeah, no, well, I mean, right before the 80s, when we talk about Dawn of the Dead, Ken Foree,
Oh
I
yes.
absolutely loved his character, Peter. Wow. I mean, he was just, again, another strong character, intelligent, crafty. Um, and again, he was, and I know it sounds so similar to what we were saying about Night of the Living Dead, but it is what it is. He was treated as a person, not a black guy. He was just treated as a person, and I absolutely loved his portrayal. And I love everything that he's done. Ken Free is amazing, even in smaller roles like
Halloween.
Halloween.
Rob
Oh
Zombie's
my
Halloween.
gosh,
It's a
um,
small but memorable role.
from yeah,
Devil's
Joe
Rejects
Grizzly,
too.
Devil's
Ah,
yeah,
Oh yes.
From Beyond. I loved his role that he had in From Beyond, and he just kind of always stands out for me. So he was definitely an actor that I loved watching in the 80s. One of my favorite movies is from the late great Wes Craven, People Under the Stairs. I love seeing, you know, a young Ving Rhames and Fool. Um, wasn't Kelly Jo Minter in that one too?
I can't
I,
I
remember
think
the name
I
so.
of the
can't
actress,
remember.
but that does sound
Mm.
right.
I think so. Yeah, she was in was it Nightmare 5?
Yes.
She was also in Nightmare 5. Yeah. So
Yes, yes.
anyways, movies like that, they just really stood out and I was like, wow, this is really cool, you know.
What about you, Monty? Like, who are your heroes? Who are the characters that made you like excited that you connected to?
Well, yeah, that was Ken Foray. I mean,
I
who
can't
can't?
for it. Let's just
Yeah,
go
you
straight
can't.
for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he's
he was
awesome.
he was a he was a badass, and I liked him,
Mhm.
and and all the movies he's been in, especially From Beyond, I thought he was good, and that one
Mhm.
obviously Dawn of the Dead, uh, the oh boy, the killer reject, the devil rejects.
Devil's
Devil's
Rejects.
Reject. Yep.
The Devil Rejects, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's always been one of my favorite actors in the film. Um, Now I can't think of it. Was on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me.
What movie is he in?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's an actress, but I can't remember her name.
What movie?
Can't remember- I can't remember the movie either.
Nuts, dude. I can't help it.
I know. I know. Yeah, my mind's drawing a
Yeah.
blank.
I
Yeah.
mean, but even movies that would kind of blur the lines of horror. I mean, you could talk about Bill Duke in Predator. I mean, I
Yes.
absolutely
Great
love
character.
Bill Duke.
Hmm.
I mean, one of my favorite characters in Predator, and obviously I'm an Arnold fan, but Bill Duke, his character, Mac, I mean, he was just amazing. Yaphet Kotto, an alien. I mean,
Hmm.
I was
again,
hoping you'd mention my boy
hey,
here.
yeah,
Can we
good for
talk
you,
about the bonus,
girl.
please?
Yes,
let's
you
talk
know
about the
what?
bonus.
Let me just say something. First of all, I absolutely love Alien. I have watched that movie hundreds of times since I was a kid. And that's the type of movie, I think we were talking about this before, Gory. One of those types of movies I could put on at any time, whether I'm sitting there totally focused on it or if I just kind of have it on and I'm just kind of chilling, maybe laying down or whatever. But every time he goes into a conversation about the bonus situation, or like when they have their little back and forth with Sigourney Weaver, I'm just like, oh man, I love this guy so much. Or like when they first are told they have to check out the planet and they're all coming into the meeting room and he's telling Ash, he's like, that's my seat. Can you get out my seat, please?
See,
And and he sits down and he's not the captain of the ship, right? But he's so damn cool because he sits down, he looks at Tom Skerritt, and he's like, "All right, what's happening, baby?" And I gravitated towards him, because well, Yaphet Kotto had so much charisma, anyways, and rest in peace to him. Whatever he played in, whether it was in James Bond, whether it was The Running Man, TV appearances, whatever. So he was a favorite of mine too. He really was.
you know why I liked him in
What?
Freddy's Dead.
Yeah.
Yes,
What
yes.
about
He hey, hey,
we have
he was one of the bright parts in Freddy's Dead. He really was.
um oh nuts, I messed it up. Hold on. There we go. We had somebody in the chat. Ben mentioned Kincaid. Kincaid.
Yes.
Oh
Ken
yes.
Sagos.
That's
Yeah.
another good one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then Danny earlier mentioned one that I wanted to hear
Grace
your guys'
Jones.
thoughts on. Yes, Grace Jones. Another one I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on was Keith David.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, Keith
jeez.
David. Yes,
Yeah. Oh my God. Keith
that
David.
voice.
Whew, man. I mean, first of all, The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. So anyone that's watch my channel or whatever, you know this. And I absolutely love Kurt Russell. I absolutely love John Carpenter. But Keith David, to me, was such an important part of the thing because he was like that other side of the coin versus McCready, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Hmm.
But what was cool is that both of them were right. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of offset
Hmm.
each other, you know? And it
Hmm.
was so poetic that they were the last two at the end. Well, unless one of them was the thing,
Yeah,
we
it's
kind of
the
go back and
everlong
forth, you
debate. The
know,
everlong
It's
you
the
debate
know,
long
there.
debate. We'll
love
never,
it, but
never know
no,
unless they make a remake
right? Yeah, but
or
he
a
was
direct
great.
sequel.
I know, right? Oh my gosh, I'd be so up for that. I really would. There was a point when John Carpenter was talking about doing the sequel,
Hmm.
Frozen Hell, and I'd be all for that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That would be
I would.
awesome. What
Yeah,
about
man.
you, Monty? Are there any other ones that were like game changers for you?
Um, nothing comes off them. Oh yeah, just well, what's it? Wigglebird just said Grace Jones and Vamp. I thought that was decent.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah, just
Grace
Vamp.
Jones was just amazing in
I
everything.
Yeah,
and
Like,
I know. Yes.
Vamp is great again, obviously because we have an amazing villain, but she's also a woman. Before women got to be the villains a lot, and on
Hmm.
top of that, I remember the uh, the actor who God I can't remember the character's name or the actor's name, but he played Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles. Um, he said that that was the first time he played a character that wasn't just defined by being Asian, like he was just part of the group. You know, so I
mm,
mean,
mm,
I didn't realize it was progressive in like other ways too for like other people, which is really cool.
hmm,
And then one
yeah,
I wanted to mention is Alien versus Predator.
hmm,
Ah,
I know a lot
yeah,
of people don't like that,
hmm.
but
Sanaa Lathan.
yes.
exactly, which is great for
Hmm,
women, great
hmm.
for black people, but like not only did she survive, she got to be basically considered an equal to a predator.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the
Yeah, because
greatest compliment.
I know.
right?
Yeah, yeah, because I did a series. I did a video about her during my final Black Women in February a few years ago, and I talked about the movie. I talked about how great her character was. You know, she
Hmm,
was um, confident, knew what she was talking about. Made sure she made the final decision, and the fact that she got to survive of a predator and got to find a queen alien that was decent, just as almost as badass as Ripley.
She was
yeah,
smart too.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
Oh,
was.
she was awesome. So
Yeah, I mean,
now I want to talk about in the 80s we got to see more black people in horror, which is great.
hmm,
But we also I think that's when a lot of the tropes came. And
hmm,
that's something I really want to ask you guys about. So let's go through some of the tropes. I'm sure you guys know
hmm.
some. So hit me with the ones
Hmm.
that you know. I'm sure you know more than I do.
Black guy got to die.
The
He's
black
got to
Yep.
guy dies
die.
first.
Gotta die.
First
Yes.
Black
one.
woman, black girl, gotta die.
Got to happen.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Can't
I mean,
survive.
it, and you saw that so much. It almost got to the point where it was like, all right, guys, come on, G- give us a win. When Kincaid survived at the end of Dream Warriors,
Yeah, I know.
I was
Yes.
like, are you serious? Really? I
He
was.
bragged about that too, and then he dies in the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
you know
Because
what's so funny? Yeah, because he says it was so funny. He says, I told all my friends and family, if you come in to see the Dream Master, if you come in there to see me, you better get there early because in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna be done.
Yup.
you know. But hey, but he did survive Dream Warriors, which to me, and obviously Monty could speak more on that. I think Dream Warriors was a really good sequel, a good film in the Nightmare franchise. So it was good to have him survive.
oh yes, I enjoyed
Yeah.
this character. The actor who played him was decent, and I was so happy that he
Mhm.
did survive. I said, finally, a black guy didn't die.
Right?
What do you guys think of Night of the Demons?
Night of the Demons was good.
Yeah, it
That's a
was
good
good.
He
cheesy one.
survives the whole
He
movie.
did.
Everybody
I
else
know.
He was
Yeah,
dies.
yeah.
he was smart too. He
Yeah.
was smart.
And a
Yeah,
Hmm.
pirate.
I agree. Right. And a pirate. I feel bad for like Miguel Munoz from Friday 5,
Mm.
uh
Hmm.
Return of the Living Dead. Ooh, baby. Ooh,
Ooh,
And
baby.
he's
baby.
in Scooby Doo too.
Yes.
Those damn enchiladas.
Purple's a
Just
fall
damn
color.
enchilada.
And you know what else he's in? I'm a big fan of this guy. He's also in Leprechaun 4.
Oh, he
He
is. Oh my
is.
gosh.
He is.
Wow.
He's one of those character actors. I think when he pops
Yeah.
up, you take notice, because he's a scene
Yes.
stealer.
Yeah, he is, man. I love his work. Seriously,
Hmm.
he's definitely one that I enjoy watching.
So what are some other tropes? Because I got a lot here if you forgot them.
He's like, what are the ones that you got?
Oh,
Yes.
so many. But I don't want to. I don't want to black-explain to you. You got to come up with these yourself.
No, the worst one was, well, I'll let Monty. Did you want to go?
No, you go on this one.
No, I was just saying. No, I was just saying. I think the thing about it is that you had a lot of the black characters that were sidekicks,
Yes.
Yep.
and they
that's
were the
another one.
ones. They were the ones that were always, are you doing all right? I'm here for you, or they give the quick advice or whatever. They didn't ever really have a specific point in the story. They didn't have the weight of the other characters, and you saw that especially with female actresses.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times you'd have the final girl or the lead actresses, and you'd have a black actress that was kind of like the best friend. You know what I'm saying? And so you saw that a lot, and that was kind of like annoying after a while. Um, I can remember watching stuff or reading interviews with some of those black actresses, and they didn't appreciate that either.
Yeah,
I
Rachel
mean,
True said that a lot. That
Yeah.
was her
Mm,
audition. Are you doing okay? Are you doing okay?
yeah, from the craft. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Are
Yep.
you okay?
Yep.
Are you all right? I'm your best friend.
Maybe
Okay.
that's what
Right.
that Smooth Criminal song's all about. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Michael Jackson was black, guys. All right, that's what that song's about. It's about horror movies and the black best
Right.
friend trope.
Yeah, and for me, it was like the black guy's a drug dealer, or the black guy, or the black
Mhm.
woman, she's the best friend, or the black guy, he's a he's trying to act white, and he's really shouldn't be acting white. That was the problem I had with some of the '80 films coming up, and of course, they
Yeah.
always would die, and sometimes it'd
Yeah.
be sometimes in either the worst times, or they would just be okay, we'll just kill you.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't get their own storylines, and I think it's disappointing that even in some more recent ones, like even I Still Know You Did Last Summer, like they made a big fuss that Brandy was in it. What is her story in that movie?
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
And
making
she's
sure that
just best friends with Jennifer Love
that's
Hewitt, and
it.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Yep.
That is her
Just friends.
story. That is her
Yeah.
story. I
Yeah.
mean, Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett had more of a storyline in the beginning of Scream 2 than she did in that whole movie.
Yes.
I know.
That's
Yes.
true. Very true. Well, and you also saw a lot of black artists, from music that would
Yes.
be in horror movies. And to me, it was kind of a double-edged sword a little bit, because I think some of them had, decent characters, but some of them, like you said, like with Brandy, like you don't even need to be in it, you know.
Yeah, in
Um,
the 2000s and even the late 90s with LL Cool J and Halloween H2O,
yes, yeah,
Kelly Rowland in
mhm.
Freddy vs.
Freddy
Freddy
versus
versus
Jason,
Jason.
Freddy
Yep,
versus
Redman
Jason.
in
she
Seed of
she didn't need to
Chucky.
be in that.
Nope.
Hmm.
God, there's so
Yeah,
many. How do you guys feel about that? Busta Rhymes, guys. Busta Rhymes.
stop.
Oh
We don't
boy.
talk about Busta Rhymes.
So sorry. I
We
crossed the
don't
line.
do
I
that.
crossed the line.
We don't, and everyone that watches my channel, you know why. No, I'm
That's
just
why I
playing. I'm
started
just
laughing
playing.
when you said Buster Rhymes.
You know what's up. Monty's like, nope.
No, no, no.
But
Backing
let
up
me just
now.
say, no, I'm just playing. You know that, Corey. But let me just go back to Kelly Rowland for a second. I was so excited at the time to see that she was going to be in Freddy versus Jason, right? Because I was a big Destiny's Child fan. She's a great singer, part of a great group. That character was BS in Freddy versus Jason. You know, I'm serious, man. She's sitting there fixated on her nose. That was the only thing her character had. And that scene where she was talking shit to Freddy
And her
and then
nose
gets
should have
killed.
stayed off.
Right?
Right.
It's like, come on, man. I mean, like I said, she was a horrible character. I felt, and of course that movie was geez, when was that movie? Was that the late
Shoot.
'90s?
I think it was late '90s. I think
Yeah,
so.
late '90s. But either
Yeah,
way,
like I think it's maybe early 2000. I don't know. It's in
maybe
that
early
area.
2000s.
It's in the
It's in the
Yeah,
area.
area. It's in
It's
the
in the
area. Yes.
bubble.
but but I'll tell you what, I was so disappointed because I was hoping that we were still kind of moving forward. You know what I'm saying? But her character was a total dud for me. You know, it really, really was. So anytime I think about that movie, that's one of the down points.
And I noticed in these movies, and sometimes it's fine.
Mhm.
The actress in Urban Legend, she's a person who stands up to the bad guy, and it's fine because I buy
Yeah.
it because she's a security guard,
Yes.
and she is done
Right.
putting up with college kids' shit.
Yes.
Sometimes though they would have these rapper characters or they would bring in, and the thing would be is that they would get to talk shit to the villain, like Kelly Rowland
Hmm.
Yes.
did that, Buster Rhymes
Yep.
did it, and
Yep.
and normally a character isn't allowed to get away with that.
Yeah.
So is that
Hmm.
Yeah. Well,
empowering, or did it make
It
you
it's
mad?
a double-edged sword. Well, and Monty, you can jump in on this, but to me, again, it was a double-edged sword because you're getting the exposure. This is an artist that I probably enjoy their music, so it was great to see them
Hmm.
in a genre that I love. But again, they're not treated with the same respect. And you saw this not only in just horror movies, you even saw it in things like cartoons. You know, if you have a black character in a cartoon, he's usually talking in rhyme.
Hmm.
He's usually like, super strong and not depicted the same way as the non-black characters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for you guys watching it, I mean, you know what I'm talking about if you were a fan of like GI Joe or Transformers and stuff like that.
Oh
Like
boy, yes.
the black characters were always stereotyped. It's like, damn, we even get stereotyped in cartoons.
I
Oh
think that's
yes,
So
and
actually kind of worse. Like I used to watch the MC Hammer cartoon.
oh boy.
oh god.
Guys,
Oh
okay.
man.
Hey,
I'm
you gonna
sorry.
defend Busta? MC Hammer, like that was the only Barbie doll I had, and he had a limo and he
Wow.
rolled around with the Ninja Turtles. Like, I was all about that. Too legit to quit life.
Oh man.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, I think the worst depiction was Transformers, the Dark Side of the Moon, where you had those two
Yes.
Transformers. Oh man,
Yes.
you want to talk about some
Yes.
terrible
Sh-
stereotypes?
Shame on you, Michael Bay. Shame
I
on
know.
you.
That's a good segue to another question I wanted to ask. Is
Hmm.
there a horror movie that just just offends you?
Um,
Not really. I never had a horror movie offend me at all.
yeah, I can't think of one
I can't think of
offhand.
any.
I'm sure there might be one out there. I mean,
I'm
I
pretty
think,
sure there are. I mean, there are some bad
yeah,
horror movies that I don't like.
Well, I mean, like
And
right.
as a black person, like, is there one where
as a
your
black,
depiction of black people was so bad that it offended you?
Well, I think, well, again, just to piggyback what I was saying earlier, there's definitely been horror movies where the character
sure, yeah,
offended me so much that I didn't enjoy the movie as much. Like I said, with Freddy versus Jason, which I'm going to be talking about on my channel very soon, that was a really bad part of the movie for me because, again, Kelly Rowland was part of a very famous group. So
hmm
it's not like she's a small fry, you know what I'm saying, coming
They
into this
could have just
movie,
gotten Beyonce.
right? But then, what would they have done with Beyonce? Hopefully, well, who knows? But
Beyonce's a
like I
queen.
said,
She wouldn't have done that shit. She'd have been like,
that's a
no,
good
change the
point.
script. Change the script.
That's a good point. She'd have been like, and if you're not gonna deal with me the right way, I don't need to do this. Which is,
Exactly. She would have put her
Yeah,
foot
but
I
down.
think when it comes to especially stars back then, I think they wanted to branch out and try to do something different,
yeah.
and I think that's what Kelly Rowland did. I mean,
Hmm.
and for me, her character was like Brandy. She really didn't bring
Hmm.
anything, and there was no really. She was Monica Leon's best friend, and
Hmm.
she treated Kinderman very terrible. But I think that's because she actually liked them and
Hmm.
liked them, and
Yep.
that was it.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you
Yep.
think about Snoop Dogg? Like, I think Snoop Dogg gets a pass on all things.
Bones.
Bones, my
Bones.
man.
Right.
Bones. Bones was
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant. I love Bones. You gotta
He
Yeah.
give
like
Snoop Dogg.
he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's in a ton of horror movies. He can hang out with
Hmm.
Martha Stewart, and we're just like, whatever. It's just Snoop Dogg. He can write rap songs about True Blood. Like, we just accept anything he does now. Like, he can do
I
whatever he
mean,
wants.
Yeah, that's
Bones was
true.
such a Bones was such a brilliant horror movie, and it doesn't get the respect that it does. It does,
Yeah.
and I think somebody in the chat was talking about he got to kiss Pam Grier.
Yeah, the director was saying
Yes.
in Horror Noir, like, they saw Snoop blush afterwards because he had such a crush on her as a kid.
I would
Uh-huh.
have too.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
just want to
that's
see Snoop
Pam Grier,
blush. I want to see Snoop blush.
Mhm.
So
right? Right.
there's a few other. I think we've talked. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think the token black guy and the black best friend kind of tie into each other a little bit. The black best friend, I think, is more of a female thing for the most part.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
are
Hmm.
other ones around, but they kind of tie in together. But there's a couple that we didn't touch on. One
Hmm.
is the magical black man or woman, which is in
Yeah.
horror movies a lot. Like it,
Yes.
Key and Peele have
Oh,
a whole
yes.
sketch about this. Do you guys want
Yes,
to
they
talk about
do.
this a bit? It's so funny.
Yeah, you see it a lot because they know more than the other characters. So it's almost like
Mm.
the character they're basically like Mr. Miyagi. Okay, you
Mhm.
know the
With
characters.
supernatural powers.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
They go to them to learn the ways, to be told how to deal with the monster or whatever. And you saw that a lot in those movies. And yeah, it's a trope that isn't fun. Although it's a trope that as a kid didn't bother me as much. And maybe that's because in a way, again, we keep using this term, the double-edged sword. The good part about it is that they did have knowledge. So I
Yes.
think me growing up, you always heard that phrase, knowledge is power. So I think to me that trope wasn't as bad it's tough to handle. Um yeah, that's how I would word it. It wasn't as tough to handle for me, because a lot of times they were the ones that had the answers. They were the ones that were the helping the hero or the final girl or whatever do what they needed to do you know
What do you think about it, Monty? Are there some that come to mind for you?
Eric from the chat just mentioned the guy from the guy Michael Don Clark's character from the Green Mile.
mm,
That he was
Yes.
he was a very huge guy, but he was
hmm
very timid, and he had these
yeah,
magical powers, and everyone went to him and to go with that. And he's a prime example of that character. Yeah,
yes,
but I think it's just what people thought about those type of characters. It says, well, black people are mostly into these storylines, especially like if it's voodoo, like the black guy in the Serpent and the Rainbow. You
Mm-hmm.
hmm
know,
hmm
he's in the voodoo.
yeah,
And that's a seemed to be the easy way out. Well, because they look, well, we need to get a magical person. Well, let's cast a black person or a black actor, or, I mean, a black man or a black woman, because they
hmm
know this stuff.
yep, I agree.
And The Shining is another one too. And I always thought, because he doesn't die in the book when Halloran gets killed, like I always
hmm
that one always upset me just because it's like he served
hmm
his purpose and then he just gets just gets
I know,
hacked
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah, Scatman Crothers.
yeah. I mean, I felt sorry for him when he got killed because
Yeah,
I know I read the book. I know he didn't get killed in the book, and I'm like, oh
Yeah,
hmm
man, Stanley, what are you doing this for?
he's in Doctor
right,
Sleep.
I know.
right,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah,
He's
that
in
was kind of
prison.
sad.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And the other one I want to talk about, which really I think ties into the black people are magic one, which that's not how they phrase it, but that's what they should call it. Black people are magic. Um, is the sacrificial black man or woman. Like Horror Noir gave the example of Annabelle. Like at the end, she has to give up her
Yes.
life for the white lady and her baby. Like,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
why?
Yeah, that made absolute to me. That was like, what's going on? I was I wasn't a big fan of that movie, anyways, but that definitely
Yeah.
stung because I'm like, it
Mm.
just made no sense. It's like, wow, aren't we further along than this? It's like, why are we using this old trope in a movie? That's so modern.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
to me, it wasn't. It wasn't. What made it worse was because it was Alfred Woodford doing that. But then the movie wasn't
Yes.
that good to begin with, and then she's
Hmm.
going to sacrifice herself because her child already dead, and she's going to help this woman. And the movie was
Yes.
already that good anyway, so that just made it worse.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that's a tough one. That really
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, I mean, are there some other movies that you can think of where they do that?
Oh wow.
I'm
Hmm.
trying to think.
I just stole that one from Horror
No.
Noir. I put you on the spot, and I feel like
No,
you should know
that
it.
is a good example. I probably could think of some. I can't think
Yeah,
of
I
any off
can't
the
think
top
of
of my
anything
head.
right now, but yeah,
Honestly, I
Dev.
can't either.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I know that there are. I mean,
There's a
Yeah.
and the thing of
lot.
it
There's
is,
a lot.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
you see that, and it's not even just in horror. You see that sometimes in action movies. You'd see
Mm-hmm.
that in westerns. You'd see that in martial
Dramas
arts
like Legend
movies.
of
You'd see it in
Mm-hmm.
Backlunds.
dramas. I mean, like think about, and I know we're not. I know we're talking horror, but think about Enter the Dragon. It's one of my favorite martial arts movies of all time.
Jim Kelly.
You've got Jim Kelly, who in the movie. Now I'm gonna give it credit because they depicted him very well, for the time,
Oh
and
yeah.
he was an equal to Roper and by proxy Bruce Lee. So you're like, yeah, cool, this is great. But then he's done away with, and he's basically shown to be hung, you know, so it's kind of like, oh man, you guys still did it. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it was like a win, but not a win.
Yeah.
You know, so
Win lose.
yeah. So you would see this not just in horror, but even in a martial arts movie, you know. So that trope, it's all over the place. And his big thing was he was friends with John Saxon, who's white,
Mm-hmm.
and they had been army buddies or whatever. They went to Vietnam together or whatever. So they basically had each other's back. So the fact that he died and then Roper, played by John Saxon, was offered the chance to be a part of the drug ring, that rubbed me the wrong way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, in the movie, Jim Kelly died for nothing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because, but anyways, so yeah, you see that in more than just horror movies,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's unfortunate.
Adam says, "I feel you, Knight. That's why The Last Dragon is my jam."
Yes. Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh. When I saw The Last Dragon, whoo, and I did an episode on The Last Dragon. When I saw that as a kid, it was like, okay, here's a black kung fu master. He's smart.
Mm-hmm.
He lives. He gets the girl. He beats the villain. He does everything right, you know? And it was the first time I had ever seen that. And for myself, it spoke to me because I also do martial arts. So I was like, wow. And obviously, for a very long time, that was the huge example of that in that genre. It's a great movie. It really
Show
is.
enough.
Show enough.
Show enough.
Um,
Yes.
Something I want to kind of go back to. We did talk about the rappers and horror era, which is kind of late '90s, early 2000s. But there was
Hmm.
something else in that era that I think really stood out. Was we had a lot of. It wasn't like, I guess it's like millennial blaxploitation. There was a lot of
Hmm.
like in the hood, or they would put like a Z on everything. Like, even
Mm-hmm.
Leprechaun went to the hood. There was a lot of
Yes.
that,
Yes.
and do you feel like that was like representative? I mean, because that it felt very urban. Like, it felt like it was just about like, in the city.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think mainly because of the popularity of rap music going mainstream in the 80s and then the gangster rap in the 90s. And
Hmm.
everything was now geared to more urban lifestyle. So I think Hollywood decided to cash in on that. So that's why you saw Tales in
Hmm.
the Hood, Leprechaun in the Hood, or this person in the
Hmm.
hood, or that
Hmm.
person in the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason why that popularity is because almost everything you saw Ice-T in it.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I think he was in both. I think he was in both. Hood. Was he in both Hood movies? The Leprechaun, or he was in
he's
just the
only in
one?
the first one.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second one's a totally different cast.
yeah, yeah. So that's where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Wicked
crazy.
Bear wants to tell you about vamps.
Oh
Apparently,
yeah,
vamps
vamps with a Z.
with
Oh
a
yeah.
Z. They gotta have a Z.
I was like, man, but it's funny because being someone that I was big into horror movies, and anytime I saw those types of movies or heard about them or heard the title, I was just like, oh, there we go again. We're going back to the hood,
Yeah.
So it's like, but those movies, and it's funny because not all of them, but a lot of them treated the black characters. It was almost not Blaxploitation, but it was similar in a way.
It is
Whereas,
similar, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
whereas if you had something like Boys in the Hood, those characters, even though they were urban, they were treated with respect because it really was a mirror of day-to-day life. It wasn't played for laughs.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
and there was a real drama to those stories. Like watching Boys in the Hood, like you'll literally get like choked up watching it, because you're seeing these characters treated with a certain amount of respect throughout the whole film. So it was different to me. Um, and I guess horror, like Monty was saying, they were just trying to cash in, on the popularity of the music, and they were trying to find a way to marry the two. And I think sometimes it worked,
Yeah,
but there
sometimes
were,
it worked and
you
sometimes it
know,
didn't.
yeah,
Ben
yeah.
says every black actor had to be in a gang. Like Alfonso Roberto was a tough guy in Ticks. Do you think that era of film kind of like uh, it added weight to that stereotype that every time you see a black guy in a movie, he was a criminal or he was in a gang. Like it was never just like during that period of time, you didn't just see like he's a dad and he
Right.
works at H&R Block. Like
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it added to it. Yeah,
yeah. It added
absolutely.
to it. And to me, it was sort of a to me it was kind of a cop out though, and
Hmm.
because we had just gone, and I want to bring this guy's name up, but the '80s, you know who that was. I don't even want to mention his name anymore, but you know who I'm talking about. And
Hmm.
now that we had all this urban stuff, and now almost everything had to be gangster this or gangster that, and that reflected more in the movies. And to me, I was like, well, can't we bring in a bit more positivity for a black man? Because not every
Yeah.
man is not a thug, or he doesn't wear his pants halfway down, he's not selling drugs or anything like
Hmm.
that. But
a
Right.
lot of
that's
them
the only
wear awesome London T-shirts. So my friend Monty.
Yeah. Right.
Adam says adding a Z makes it urban or hood and appealing to black audience, according to the executives, thus perpetrating stereotypes. And all of these executives are white.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
So
because I think another thing was they wanted to get more of the black audience in the theaters, and they felt as though this is the only way you can get them because this is what they like.
hmm
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
so that kind of segues us. We're getting a little closer to today. So then you get to movies like Attack the Block, which has that urban element, but they're treated
Hmm.
like you said, like in Boys in the Hood. They're treated like real kids. I mean, it's a group of kids of many different races.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
What are
Hmm.
some other 2000s movies that stand out to you guys as like kind of um, branching out, like breaking out of those stereotypes?
Well, I want to mention, of course, this was '92, but I got to talk about Candyman,
Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah.
yes. Talk about Candyman.
because when Candyman came out, I can remember being in school, and me and my friends, and again, we were from all different cultures. We were like, "Wow, that was a fucking good movie,"
It's
you
scary.
know, scary. And Tony Todd was poetic, like he
Be
was just
my
so
victim.
elegant. Yes, Helen,
You did
it was
you did that
great.
too well. Ugh.
I mean, seriously, the movie was. I mean, it was a fantastic movie, fantastic cast, fantastic everything. But his portrayal of that character was just so different, you know. But it still rang some truth because his backstory was being a freed slave
Hmm.
and obviously, being killed for being, in a relationship with a white woman and so forth and so forth. So to me, it showed that you can honor the past, because those things really did happen. But this character in the movie's modern day can be more than what we saw in a lot of other movies. And I mean, and take away from the fact that he was the monster or the villain. I'm just saying the way he was portrayed. He was dressed in a way that was very elegant, regal. You know, I had never seen that on the big screen.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
so
because
that
Yeah,
was
he's kind
very
of
very good.
like a dandy. He reminds me a
yeah,
bit
Yeah,
of like Louis and Lestat. Like he's got class.
yeah,
yes, he's
he
got
he
class.
was class. He was poetic. He was also
Hmm.
dangerous and deadly.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was.
Also,
that's
I've
why I
met
liked it.
Tony Todd. In case you guys are wondering, he smells amazing. Like I always thought he did, but he does. He smells really good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was gonna bring this up. One of the first, I think, first final black girls I saw in a horror film was Jada Pinkett Smith and Tales from the Crypt Demon Night.
I love that movie.
yes,
I know
yes.
she was a very good character in the film. I enjoyed the
Hmm.
film, and
Hmm.
not because that actually was the first date I took Kelly on when we first met. And I took
Oh.
her to a horror movie,
Nice.
and but yeah, she was one of the first black final girls, and I liked her character. I like how she interacts with Billy Zane in the film. Billy Zane is
Hmm.
all zany and crazy and wild, and she's down to earth, and then how she tricks him,
Hmm.
And
and
the movie kind of tricked audiences too because they kind of introduce you to William Sadler and Billy Zane, and you think, okay, William Sadler is going to be the hero in this. He's going to be like
Hmm.
Ash
Mhm.
Williams, maybe, and
Right.
you kind of assume, poor Geraldine isn't going to make it, but
Hmm.
Mhm.
she gets to be the final girl, which was really cool. It kind of
Hmm.
subverted those expectations.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very cool stuff. Very, very cool.
So let's get into like what Nat calls elevated horror. I prefer thematic horror because that's just how I like to roll. I think you
Right.
know horror. It's just different. But
Hmm.
yeah, horror is going into a lot of different directions now. Like we have a lot of movies that can actually comment on these things directly. Like, what are some movies that stand out to you guys?
Well, I mean, we got to talk about Get Out.
Yep.
Oh yes.
I mean, man, that movie is just a fantastic movie. I'd been such a fan of Jordan Peele for so long before that, and to see him be able to transition from comedy into horror was so awesome. But Get Out, man, that movie, it speaks to me very well. But the story and the way that the horror takes hold of you, I thought it was so well done, so intelligent. Daniel Kaluuya was awesome in that role. You know what I'm saying? Like he was real. He felt real. He felt like a guy that, you know, I know. He felt like some of my friends that I know. And
Oh
so
yes.
it was refreshing. And I think it was, yeah, it was just great. It was
Yes.
great.
Yeah, because his character has elements of a great dear friend of mine who passed away a few years ago. He was
Mhm.
like a blood brother to me, and that's what he has aspects of that character in. But it's just the whole story, how Jordan Peele wrote the story, how it was well acted, and
Mhm.
the different version about how some white people feel black people in
Mm.
that particular film. It's something different we didn't see before, and I give Jordan Peele credit.
And
Mhm.
it touched on
Absolutely.
a lot of fears that I think a lot of white people like didn't realize that well one, I mean from a white person's perspective, it pointed out a lot of things. It's like, yeah, just cuz you're being friendly doesn't mean you're not being racist, like
Mm.
these people are
Mhm.
being very racist even though they're being friendly, and it
Mhm.
pointed out that there's different kinds of racism, which
Yes.
I thought was really good. And something that
Mhm.
I didn't really like. You noticed it and you knew it was bad, but like nobody that I knew really like recognized it as being like racist before. Like it's like, well,
Yeah.
but they're nice, but they're not
Right.
really nice because they're making somebody feel other.
Mhm.
But what does it like? What does it say about like the fears Black people have? Because there's a lot of things they talk about in there that make Black people uncomfortable.
Well, I think the fact of, like you said, being treated in that nice way.
Hmm.
It's like that double talk. I mean, I've been in that situation more times than I could even tell you, whether it's in school, at work, in social settings, people that I might have been in relationships with, meeting their family. And sometimes it's not even just the words, sometimes it's the look, sometimes it's
Hmm.
the way that people act, sometimes it's the way that people have their conversations, and stuff like that. So that movie, it's real. It's very
Oh
real.
yeah, it's very real.
you know that's the best way I could put it. It's so real. But there's those fears, the fears of not being able to defend yourself if you have to. In that movie, you could see his character start to see between the lines, and all he wanted to do was get out of the situation,
Hmm.
because he knew that if he did anything, he'd be totally blamed without even any thought,
Yeah,
and that's a scary, scary thing,
scary part. Yeah,
you know.
because in the final act in the film, and
Hmm.
you see the police coming, and you think
Yep.
that, oh shit, he's going to get
Yep.
blamed for everything, and you see his boy come in there, and that, I think half the audience cheered when I went to go
Yes.
see it in the theater. Half the audience cheered
Yep.
when that
Same
scene
here.
played out. Hmm.
Yep. I heard people, as soon as you saw the lights coming, I could hear people saying,
Their
"Oh,
heart drops.
there it
It feels like
goes."
the end of Night
Yeah,
of the
no.
Living Dead. It feels like, oh
Mm.
Yes.
shit.
Yes. Yes. That is so true. And I think I had read once that Jordan Peele talked about the parallels between Get Out and Night of the Living Dead. He's obviously a huge horror fan, horror
Hmm.
geek, and um, I think it kind of showed progress. I mean, of course, we're talking 50 years between these films, so it took a long time to get some progress, but it was progress, because when those lights start showing up, I could hear people in the theater just like, "Oh boy, here we go!" And as soon as it was his friend, people
Hmm.
cheered.
And
White
yeah,
people, black people, everybody was like, "All right, it didn't end the way that it usually would have, or the way that it probably would have in real life."
Hmm.
You know,
yeah.
and what does that say about the movie? Well, it says that it was progressive. It says that this film has importance. Whether you like the film or not, but it was a moment. In my opinion, it was a moment.
One of the parts I want to ask you guys about is in the very beginning. Because we see so many movies where, like, Laurie Strode or somebody, she's just walking down the street in the suburbs and she's
Yes.
just fine because she's afraid
Yeah.
of, like, some guy in a mask. But no, this guy is
Hmm.
actually freaked out before a crazy guy comes in a car. Like, he doesn't
Yep.
feel comfortable.
Yep.
Hmm.
And you
Oh
guys are
yeah.
city guys.
Hmm. Oh yeah. No,
Oh
there's been
yeah.
times. Yeah, I mean, there's been times I've been, in areas like that, because again, I had friends that lived in those areas, and there were times, before I was driving, or if I wasn't able to catch a bus, that I would have to walk home, and you know, I could feel myself more on guard, looking around a little bit more. My younger brother Kill, I remember he was telling me once, he was walking in a certain area in the city, and he had forgotten that he was wearing a hoodie. He had a black hoodie.
Hmm.
Um, he was a fan of, I don't know what it was, if it was the Raiders or whatever, but my mother kind of scolded him, and he was I don't know, like 16, 17 or so at the time. And my mother basically said, "No, don't do that." you know and so it just kind of shows you, and we're talking about generational things. um it's real.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's real.
That happened to me one time. I just was leaving a friend of mine's house, and all of a sudden, by the time I'm walking down the street, the cop car just pulled up right in front of me, and they pulled their guns
Mhm.
out. I'm like, oh shit.
Wow.
I just
Hmm.
stopped right dead in my tracks, and they're cursing
Hmm.
at me, get the blank and all this other crap. And I get down,
What?
I like it
Hmm.
turned out that somebody robbed this woman, and they snatched her pocketbook. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, just because the guy and I had the same type of shirt. So of course, they take me down to the police station. A couple of my boys, they go to my mom. My mom's freaking out. They get to send me.
Hmm.
They take her there, and she's crying like, and then I don't right now. I raise my son, but he doesn't steal anything. So by the
Hmm.
time the mother and the daughter came in, the daughter looked at me. That's not him.
Hmm. Right.
That's not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That
So it's like,
scene, that scene in Get Out when they get pulled over
mm-hmm,
by the cop, and you see Allison Williams kind of, do the defense of Daniel Kaluuya. Um, I went through that same thing, you know, um, just driving along, had a friend in the car. She was white, and I mean, we were dating, but got pulled over, and and we weren't speeding, nothing was wrong with the car,
mm-hmm,
nothing. So, anyways, long story short, that scene in Get Out, it kind of brought back a little anxiety and fear and sadness and stuff like that because that stuff happens. It happened to my brother too. My brother was in that
mm-hmm.
same scenario. So that's something that I think that a lot of folks that aren't black, they can't understand what it's like when you're driving along and you get pulled over. It's it's
It's a
and
different
that's why
fear for you.
Yeah.
Get Out, it is a horror movie. I know some folks, I have some friends I know that they question how much of it is really horror. I said the whole movie is a horror movie, you know. And Jordan Peele even talks about he made this movie um to speak to black audiences as well as other audiences, but it was from the perspective of a black audience. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, a lot of those scenes they ring very true.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to talk to you about the new Candyman. And, I know some of you guys don't like it. I actually really liked it. But
Hmm.
one of the things I thought was kind of, it's kind of bizarre about the original Candyman is, Candyman is somebody who was subjected to obviously racism and
Hmm.
who is killed horribly, and they cut off his hand and all these horrible things
Hmm.
happen to him. And yet he attacks the people in Cabrini Green, the people who believe in him, that are keeping him alive. He needs people
Hmm.
to believe in him to be alive. But like,
Hmm.
I think it's Bernice is her friend. Like, I don't even remember Bernice saying can't. I don't want to say it 5 times. I don't remember her saying the C word 5 times. But like, he kills her, and I was like, "What the
Yeah.
hell, man? Like, what the
Right.
fuck?" And then
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
the new one, they kind of changed it up to where he's not. He's almost like a kind of avenging angel for the people of that town,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
for the people of that neighborhood. What
Right.
do you guys think about that change?
I can let you go, Monty.
Yeah, it's. I like the change. It was interesting.
Mhm.
I like the fact that they decided to play upon the gentrification of neighborhoods such as Cabrini Green, and then you have this figure who obviously thought that he was some type of predator or child molester because he used to give people candy,
Mhm.
and the fact that once after he comes back, he's sort of like some type of avenging angel to that
Mhm.
people. So I like that aspect of the film. I said, "Wow, this is something different. I like this."
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. I echo those statements. I think it was very interesting to kind of twist the story like that. I thought it was very interesting because anytime you do and it's not a remake, but obviously it's kind of traveling the same road story wise. But I thought it was something that was fresh. I really did enjoy that aspect of it. I did.
What do you think about like the end? Because you talked a lot about like the cop situation, how
Hmm.
she calls Candyman, and she knows what
Hmm.
she's doing. Like, she's not
That's
doing
right.
it as a prank or something. Like, she knows what she's doing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Again, I think that was, you said it best. He's kind of like an avenging angel. He's kind of trying to um, right the wrongs. He's trying to stop the injustice against those people. Um, and whether people like the movie or they don't, or they think it's, too much of, message in it and this and that. I think that it was nice to see that empowerment in this version of the movie. Whereas, like you said, in the 92 movie, it was more that he was, the monster of that
Mm,
area. Yeah, he
yes.
was the boogeyman of the people of Cabrini Green. So it was nice to see that twist because now
Now
those
he's like the
people,
crow.
Mm,
exactly, those
yeah.
people they could almost use him as a weapon,
Yeah.
his legend, the fear that his legend caused. And like you said at the end when she called his name, I remember people in the theater like, yes, yes, and it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
so it was a nice twist. I liked it.
So there's a lot of movies people have been talking about in the chat. We are going to wrap it up here soon because I know everyone needs to go to bed because it's later for you guys than it is for me.
Hmm.
But
Right.
obviously we can't talk about everything. But
Right.
what do you guys want to talk about or recommend here at the end? Like I know people in the chat when they've been talking about is Death by Temptation.
Yeah,
Are
Kadeem
there some
Yes.
Hardison.
ones
Yeah.
that
Good
you've
yes.
missed? Like I know Us is another one.
Oh yes, Us. That's a great one.
Mm.
Um, I think for me, Us was so bonkers crazy, and it was kind of like well, at least two horror movies in one because you have the whole house invasion, home invasion aspect of it, and then this trippy ass sci-fi angle in it as well. And I absolutely loved Lupita Nyong'o in the
Oh,
lead
she's
role,
great in the movie.
She was good in Little
playing dual
Monsters too.
roles.
Like she's
Oh,
good.
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So that's
I was gonna,
definitely
I
one
was
I
gonna,
would
that's
recommend
gonna be
too.
one of the films I recommend because if you haven't seen it,
Hmm.
yeah, she definitely. If you haven't seen that movie, yeah, definitely see it because she's good in that role.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. She was very, very good in it. And again, the movie's not perfect, and
Mm.
I don't think it's better than Get Out because I do think the third act has some issues, but I appreciated how it was done. I appreciated how crazy it was. Kind of like, well, how the hell does that work? And great performances by all of them. It was really good performances. I love Us. That's a great one.
One thing I will recommend, even though I really didn't enjoy it that much,
Mhm.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
I love that one.
Ooh, yeah.
I think Wes Craven really did try to
Mhm.
be representative. I mean, he did People Under the Stairs. He did
Yeah.
Vampire
Mm,
in
Yep.
Brooklyn. I
Yep.
know Vampire in
Yep.
Brooklyn's cheesy, but I love it.
It is
hmm
cheesy. Tales
Yeah,
from the Hood. That's a good one.
Tales from the
Tales
Hood.
from the Hood. That
Yeah.
actually was pretty good.
Tales from the Hood is good.
Yes, absolutely. Geez, I'm trying to think. That's a good question. Wow.
Also, and again, I'll recommend this before. If you guys have not seen it before, it came out last year. The Boy Behind the Door. Got to check out that movie.
Yeah,
Love
I
that.
know you kept talking about that. Yeah, yeah.
Are there any
Good.
that you're looking forward to?
Nope.
I was just
No,
about to say that.
that's kind of a weird answer to that because at first I was like, why are you sassy, Monty? But no, I'm looking forward to movie
Right.
too.
Oh
That
yeah, I think
trailer
I think
was
everyone's
great.
is looking good for Nope because that trailer is just so
So
like wow.
mysterious too. Like I mean,
Yes.
he's got little things in there to let you kind of know what's going on, but like
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone's got it figured out yet. Like he is
Hmm.
good at keeping that mystery.
And I love it. I love it. I mean, and that's true of any horror movie. If I can go in blind, I absolutely love it. But that trailer was so intriguing on so many levels. I was just like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see
I
this movie.
rewatched it like a dozen times.
Oh yeah, I watched it a dozen times too. And and
Hmm.
and again, Jordan Peele, um, it's just so cool to see him spreading his wings.
Hmm.
I think it's just really, really cool. I loved him on the Twilight Zone. There were some really good episodes of the Twilight Zone. I know some people were hot or cold with it,
I liked
but
it.
there were some good episodes that really were cool. But Nope is number one for me. It
Oh
really
yes,
is. And I think he's got such a great career ahead of him. I really do.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to
Yeah.
see what else he does. Are there any
Hmm.
other ones
Yeah.
for you, Monty, that you're looking forward to? Because
There's
you
some
watch a
other.
lot of stuff. You
I
know
know.
what's coming out.
There's some. I can't remember the name of it. But I know there's some horror movies that are coming out this month. I know Emma from Spooking Astronaut said about it on her video when she does every new month about some of the new movies, horror movies that are coming out this month. I
Hmm.
think there's one there's called You Are Not Alone.
Yes, the witch one.
Oh,
Yeah, the which one? Yeah,
I really
that
want to
looks.
see that one.
Then there's a
okay.
quirky one called The Baby.
Yes.
That's coming
Ooh.
out on Netflix.
One I want to mention that I think you guys would like. It's going to have, obviously great black representation is Time Cut. I'm really excited about this movie. You've got female director, which I'm excited about. Our two leads are, um, black women, which I think is great. But what I love about it is it's produced by Christopher Landon, who did Happy Death Day,
Death
and
Day.
Yeah,
he
Happy
does
Death
kind
Day.
of like horror versions of comedy movies, but this is basically described as Back to the Future meets Scream.
Oh yeah,
So
yes. I've been
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
yes, I
going to
did hear
yeah,
be
about that.
great.
yeah, I did hear
Yes.
about that.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. I gotta check that
Hmm.
out. Yes.
I think
Yeah,
that's going to be really exciting.
absolutely.
Uh,
Mm.
yeah, Little Monsters was really good. Whisper.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think we covered a lot of the movies. We talked about what we're looking forward to. Let's finish up by talking about what's going on your channels and what they can look forward to over there.
Ooh.
Monty's ready.
I'll let you go, Monty. Monty's ready. He's like, let me tell you.
Coming next Wednesday, I will have the lovely Deborah Voorhees on my channel.
Woo! Awesome.
I did let her know that she won the Oscar for Best Favorite Family Film. She's very proud of that. I
Yes.
sent her a link to the show. She enjoyed it. So we'll definitely be talking about that. So she will be on my channel next Wednesday.
We'll send her
Nice.
Oscar if she wants it.
Okay, yes,
We're
yes,
sending
yes.
Barbara Crampton hers.
Uh,
That is so
They're
awesome.
actual
I'll-
trophies. You got to pour the blood on it and everything. It's fun. It's a whole interactive
yeah,
thing.
I'm
Nice.
I'm pretty sure that she'll definitely want that one. So I'll let her know when we talk next Wednesday. So yes.
That's
Awesome.
exciting.
Awesome. Very
I
Mhm.
cool.
have
Very
to
cool.
check that one out. Set reminders.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
definitely. I'll set up reminders probably on Sunday.
Oh, very
Nice.
cool. Very cool. She's
Hmm.
awesome. What about you, Night?
Oh
What's
She
yeah.
going
is.
on over on your channel?
Oh man, I always got something going on. Just kind of the usual, just doing live streams, trying to do some more interaction with the viewers. As you know, Gory, on Thursdays, doing a morning stream, which that's very new. Um, and just having fun, anytime I get a chance, Monty comes on, Corey, you've been on, anytime I can collaborate with any of you guys, it's always a blast.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
You should really check us when we do our Deadly Venoms live stream. You want to see some crazy times.
yes, yes, indeed. And
When's the next
and the
Deadly Venom?
well, we were talking about doing it in the next couple of Thursdays, but
Hmm.
and no one else knows this. Strange Monkey is part of our group, and
Hmm.
he's going to be busy for a little bit. So I'm talking to him, right now, messaging back and forth. So I might hold off on it for a couple weeks because I really want him to be a part of it. He's a
You
big
know,
part of the fun.
he's definitely a big part of it. Yes.
He is, and this will be a year anniversary of
1 year.
doing the
Hmm.
Venom stream, and it'll be episode 10. So it's kind of cool. Obviously people collaborate all the time, and obviously, as you know, Gory, I collaborate with the Lethal Collective
Yes.
weekly, and it's four of us. But on the Venom stream,
There's
we've
6 of
had
us.
6, 7
Hmm.
people, all these
You're
different
like
channels.
in the Marvel universe, like all these different groups. Like you got Fantastic Four over
It's
here. You got the
and
Avengers
and
over
what's
there.
and what's funny because the first time we did it, Knight mentioned about the Exorcist 2, and I made one of the
Yes,
best clip scenes when he
you
mentioned that.
did. You did. I mean, I will say this, and Monty knows this. I mean, we just have a blast, and we do a lot of fun things. We do trivia, we do tier lists, we do our favorite horror movies, and every time we do an episode, one of us, and we rotate, has to do a review of a movie that we hate.
Yes.
And
That's
it's been a
good.
blast.
That's good.
Yeah.
I
It's
like
been a
that.
blast.
I was the first victim, so I had to review Exorcist 2.
Really?
Yes,
Exorcist 2?
he hates it, and I'm like, it's not
I know.
that
Wait a minute.
bad.
Let's
Mufasa in it.
I don't hate Exorcist 2. Hate is a
Darth
strong word.
Vader.
Don't like the movie. Don't like
There
it at
you
all.
go.
And Nurse Ratched. God, there's so many good people in that movie.
That's right. Yes. Oh my god. But we have a blast doing it, man. And so I'm really hoping, number one, that we can do it hopefully within the next couple of Thursdays, because we usually do it on Thursday nights. And I'm hoping I've got some ideas, because I really like to have each one be a little bit different as far as
Mhm.
what we do. And I also want to do, well, I don't want to really, well, I'll say it because Monty probably figured it out, but I got to do clips of some of our best moments.
Oh yeah, we
And like,
definitely got to do that.
yeah,
I gotta see
it's
those
fun.
clips.
It's a fun time. It really
Oh, yeah.
is.
Mhm.
It really is. And I'm so happy that, especially people like Monty, Triv from Trivial Theater, Ben from Cadaver Club, Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here, Corey Andrews with me. We've had Marty from Trash Picture Show, Corey from King Need Gore, obviously Strange Monkey. All these folks take their time to get together just to have fun, and it's like, it's really cool. So I always appreciate it, and it's been great to get to collaborate with them and get to know them more and become closer and really good friends. So it's a good time. It really is.
Awesome stuff. I'm looking forward to all this, and the coffee in the mornings on Thursdays. I'm liking that. It needs a
Thanks.
name though. It needs a name.
Well, the only thing when I first did it last week, was the first time I did it. I had no idea that people would even jump into the live chat. So I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
called
yeah.
it.
Because I was working at the time. I was like, "What? Nice doing a morning stream."
Yeah,
Right?
I was too.
So I just
I
called
gotta
it
check.
Morning Brew.
So I had to check this out. So I'm busy watching. I'm busy watching and taking calls at the same time.
I watched it today
But
while I
it's
was at work.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's fun. So I'm gonna try to do it on Thursday mornings, at least for the time being, and we're having fun.
Sounds good.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can find you guys.
The Nightwatch Zone.
The horror miser Monty G.
And these guys are on YouTube. They're on Twitter.
Mhm.
They're on Facebook.
Yep.
Yes.
Instagram,
Instagram,
Letterbox,
Letterbox.
The Corner. I'm joking.
Gotta make that extra cash. Show a
Gotta
little-
make that cash,
Show a
baby.
little leg, Get some super chats. I hear you. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I had so much fun talking to you, hearing your guys'
Yeah.
thoughts and things. You guys had awesome insights into things, and I think, I think the chat really liked it too. So
Oh,
you
yes.
guys
Thank you.
stick around because I want to talk to you guys in a little bit. All right.
Okay.
But,
I will.
let's say goodbye to these guys. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you, everyone who's in the chat. Thank you, Adam Ward and Danny and Beth. And there's so many of you guys. Bleka, Zigma. Anybody you guys want to shout out before we go?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Peace.
Yes. And I want to hear both of your goodbyes from your channel. I want to hear both of them.
Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules.
I love it. All right. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch.
Did it. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And until we meet again, blessed be.
Bye.
Bye.